Donald Trump's recent speech in Detroit, Michigan, was initially marketed as an address on the economy, but what unfolded was a chaotic and confusing tirade that had little to do with economic issues. The former president, infamous for his unpredictable public addresses, managed to insult the city he was speaking in, misuse words, and go off topic repeatedly, leaving many stunned by his lack of coherence. What could have been a platform to address the nation's financial concerns turned into a disjointed rant with personal attacks, false claims, and delusional anecdotes that further highlighted his ongoing detachment from reality. In what has become a familiar pattern for Trump, the speech was laden with falsehoods, projections, and self-aggrandizing statements. He was found liable for sexual assault, yet he continues to use triggering language with impunity. From claiming to have won an imaginary award to accusing the media of lying about him, Trump's words were not only factually dubious, but also riddled with the usual grandiose embellishments. It is hard to believe this man once held the highest office in the land, and his latest outburst in Detroit demonstrates just how far he's fallen from the grasp of reality. Let's dissect his latest Detroit disaster. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to reaching 1,000 subscribers, but we can't do it without you. So if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe right now. And if you're already subscribed, give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment to let me know your thoughts. All right, let's dive right into it. Donald Trump kicked off his Detroit speech by doing what few politicians dare to do, insulting the very city he was addressing. Detroit, which has experienced significant economic struggles, but is also a symbol of resilience and rebirth in America's industrial heartland, became the target of Trump's jabs. Without hesitation, he said, our whole country will end up like Detroit if Kamala Harris becomes your president. Such an insult directed at the Motor City, a city already working to rebuild itself, seemed like a major miscalculation. The audience was there to hear about economic recovery and the future of the auto industry, but Trump was more interested in stoking fear and making slanderous remarks. By attacking Detroit, Trump effectively alienated the very people he was supposed to address. It was as though he had forgotten where he was, or worse, didn't care. The irony of this situation is that Trump was speaking to the Detroit Economic Club, a group that has long been a beacon for industrial growth and economic recovery. Instead of offering solutions, he offered insults. If she's your president, you're going to have a mess on your hands, he added, referring to Vice President Kamala Harris. Triggering language. Trump's use of rape. What followed next was even more shocking. In a speech that was supposedly about economics, Trump managed to make a disturbingly out-of-place comment, saying that other countries have come to the U.S. to rape it economically. We allow them to come and raid and rape our country. That's what they did. It's hard to ignore the choice of the word rape, especially given Trump's history. The word holds a deeply traumatic meaning, and its casual use in political rhetoric can be triggering to survivors of sexual violence. It's worth noting that Trump was found liable for sexual assault in the E. Jean Carroll case, a ruling that Trump has tried to dismiss, but that remains a dark mark on his record. The judge even likened the assault to rape, making Trump's use of the term particularly tone-deaf. For someone who has been found responsible for such acts, to then stand in front of an audience and use the word rape in a completely inappropriate context is jarring and offensive. His supporters may brush it off, but for many, it was a reminder of the deeply troubling allegations that continue to shadow the former president. Self-aggrandizement. The Fake Man of the Year award. As is typical in Trump speeches, he soon shifted the focus away from the economy and toward his favorite topic, himself. In one particularly bizarre segment, Trump began recounting how he was supposedly named Michigan's Man of the Year, a title that simply doesn't exist. He launched into a convoluted story about how he was allegedly given this non-existent award years ago. They wanted to make her look as good as possible, make her look better. "A big problem in our country is the fake news," he said, before continuing his rambling tale. Despite being repeatedly fact-checked on this claim, Trump insists he was honored as Man of the Year in Michigan, though no such honor has ever been documented. What makes this particular lie more bizarre is Trump's insistence on weaving it into a speech that was supposed to be about economic policies. Instead of addressing real issues like inflation or jobs, he was stuck on a fictitious award that no one except Trump seems to remember. The entire segment felt like a cognitive train wreck as Trump struggled to recall dates and details. He even cited the Oakland County GOP dinner, which happened after his presidency, as the proof of his Man of the Year claim. It was a case study in delusion, where even the slightest criticism from the media triggers a defensive and false narrative, blaming stupid people for threatening democracy. Continuing on his tirade, Trump decided to shift his attention to a new enemy: stupid people. In what was one of the most bizarre statements of the speech, he declared that the biggest threat to democracy is stupid people. Trump never elaborated on who exactly these stupid people are, but it's clear that he was positioning himself as the only intelligent, capable leader who can save America from the ignorance of others. The irony here is palpable. Trump has repeatedly ignored factual information, science, and expert advice during his time in office, yet he is now claiming that it is the stupid people who are a threat to democracy. One has to wonder whether this was yet another case of Trump projecting his own insecurities onto others. For someone who regularly stumbles through basic sentences and makes false claims, it seems that he may be describing himself more than anyone else. Economic delusions, stock market claims. At various points in his speech, Trump did attempt to discuss the economy, but his claims were as detached from reality as ever. One particularly egregious falsehood was his statement that the stock market is booming solely because he's doing well in the polls. Trump claimed that the only reason the stock market has gone up is because Donald Trump is doing very well in the polls. This is not only incorrect, but laughable. The stock market's performance is influenced by a wide range of factors, including corporate earnings, global economic conditions, and monetary policy. Trump's delusion that the market rises and falls based on his poll numbers is both narcissistic and detached from the way financial markets actually operate. His obsession with linking his personal fortunes to the broader economy is a reflection of how he views everything through the lens of his own ego. The never-ending word salad. Perhaps the most glaring issue with Trump's speech was the complete lack of coherence. At several points, he became completely lost in his own thoughts, unable to form a complete sentence or even a rational argument. One of the most perplexing moments came when he tried to discuss voter ID laws, but couldn't seem to finish a sentence. They don't want to, I say, they want to, when I see things, I was just, what was he trying to say? Even his most ardent supporters must have been left scratching their heads, wondering what point he was trying to make. This type of rambling has become a hallmark of Trump speeches, where he seems to lose track of his thoughts mid-sentence, leaving the audience to decipher the jumbled mess of words he leaves behind. Projecting onto Kamala Harris, the pot calling the kettle black. Trump's speech in Detroit would not be complete without an attack on his political opponents, and this time, Vice President Kamala Harris became the target of his ire. He accused her of speaking in word salad, a term often used to describe Trump's own disjointed speech patterns. The irony was thick as he criticized Harris for something he does regularly. He even went so far as to call her dumber than hell. Kamala Harris, who is known for her sharp debating skills and articulate speeches, has been a frequent target of Trump's insults. But his accusations of her being unintelligible were more projection than truth. It was clear that Trump's criticisms of Harris were less about her actual performance and more about his inability to handle strong female leaders. His sexism was on full display, as he continued to belittle Harris in ways that were not only unsubstantiated, but also uncalled for. Donald Trump's Detroit speech was supposed to be about the economy, but it quickly devolved into a spectacle of self-aggrandizement, insults, and incoherence. His penchant for falsehoods, delusion, and projecting his own faults onto others was on full display, leaving many to wonder if this was a preview of what another Trump presidency would look like. Instead of addressing the very real economic concerns facing the American people, Trump opted for fear-mongering, conspiracy theories, and outright lies. His insults toward Detroit, his misuse of triggering language, and his delusional claims about awards and stock market performance reveal a man who is increasingly out of touch with reality. As the 2024 election looms, Trump's latest debacle in Detroit serves as a reminder of why many Americans have grown weary of his antics. While his base may still cheer him on, it's becoming clearer to the rest of the country that Trump is more interested in self-promotion than in addressing the issues that matter to everyday Americans. His Detroit disaster will be remembered not for its policy proposals, but for its disturbing, off-topic rants that only deepen the divide between Trump and the truth.